Hello everyone and welcome to the table. So I have a knife right here. This thing is just kind of odd. So let's just check out the name of this knife. This is called the Pocket Beast. And you might think, looking at the Pocket Beast here, this looks like it's made by Cold Steel, right? It's just some weird exotic shapes here, kind of big and beefy. But no, this is not a Cold Steel knife, believe it or not. This is actually made by Condor Tool and Knife. So Condor Tool and Knife. We can see their logo right there, Condor in El Salvador. So let's talk about the Pocket Beast right here, because it's a big, beefy liner lock knife. Interesting choice of materials, and very interesting choice in blade shape right there, right? So take a look at that extreme shape. I don't even know what to call this shape. It looks to me very reminiscent of kind of like the Tom Brown Tracker, like an outdoorsy knife, right? It has this big swept piece here, and I don't even know what to call this belly, this curved inward belly. A very, purpose use case, I'm sure. And so that being said, in the comments below, if you know the actual use case for having such an interesting shape, feel free to tell me. I'm going to make some guesses during this video, but I want to hear your opinion. But we'll check out the build quality too, because Condor, there's facilities in El Salvador. I know it says right here, handcrafted in El Salvador. But again, let's check out the specs, because it's a big beefy knife, very heavy duty in my opinion. But the blade length itself is actually not even that long. So I don't even know where to measure from, but you'll see from tip to scale, it's about 3 inches long. So we have a little bit, about 2 inches on this curved portion, and then another inch or so in this inset piece. And so 3-inch blade, overall length right here, 7.5 inches long. We can see the body of the knife is quite thick, it's almost 3/4 inches, just in thickness in hand, which nothing wrong with that. Has these nice micarta scales, actually. I do like the micarta. It feels good, nice and grippy, so no faulting them there. Thick steel liners, so we can see this is a liner lock action, and of course this liner is actually also super thick as well. We can see the centering right there. The blade does rub on this liner, so what I generally have had to do is I tighten the pivot down, and that kind of brings it back centered. Reduces the blade play too, of course. It does make it a little bit harder to open. The blade is not entirely flickable. It takes some effort and some wrist to get it out there, but this probably isn't the type of knife that you really need to flick open and fidget with, right? But it is such a unique item. So taking a look at the build quality of this knife, in terms of Condor folders, this one hasn't been too bad. There's a blade rub. There's a little bit of unevenness, like when the blade is sitting flat, I can tell one side of the scales is higher than the other. So I don't know if that comes across on camera, but this side of the knife is higher up than this side. So it kind of causes the knife to lean when it's on its back. Little things like that. Beyond that, though, this one, once you tighten the pivot down, it actually is fully functional. Very questionable choice, in my opinion, with the pocket clip right here. It's just kind of at a weird angle, right? So a lot of companies will make like a curved pocket clip, something that follows the contour of the knife. But it seems like, they just had a stock of these pocket clips on hand and said, hey, drill it out, make it happen. And so it kind of sits in your pocket a little bit off canter, I guess is the word for it. It's not reversible, but again, I'm happy they did put a pocket clip on it. It may look a little awkward, and in hand, you can definitely kind of feel it there in your palm, but not the end of the world, right? But again, blade, interesting blade here. And now this is actually a 1095. This is carbon steel, so 1095 steel blade. You don't see too many modern liner lock folders with 1095. So Condor is, again, one of the few companies that goes that far and does that, so good on them. We have the thumb stud opener, which, like I was showing you, it is functional. It is kind of far down and awkwardly out there, but it works. It does work, like you're seeing. It functions. This first portion of the blade right here, it reminds me of like an ulu knife, where it has these can do roll cuts, so very rounded off. So I mean, if you're, I don't know what it is you would need to be cutting, but either way, on a cutting board it'd be perfect, because it really lends itself to putting your pressure in that way. So that's always kind of cool. So very sharp out of the box, no issues there. Very nice and easy to see. We can see it has kind of like a grade finish on it with the satin bevels. So interesting look to it as well. It's this inner piece that I'm still trying to figure out what exactly we would use it for. You know, I mean, I imagine if you have like a stick or something and you wanted to like, you know, cut off pieces of it, or, you know, carve pieces out of it, maybe it helps, you know, guide your hands doing that. I'm not entirely sure, you know, but this is an outdoor folder, right? So it's meant to do outdoorsy tasks. So I imagine it could be pretty useful for things of that nature, you know, where you're trying to, you know, do prep work on a campsite, outdoor labor, outdoor jobs. So it does bite in to a stick very easily. So we can see just feathering that out, you know, it works pretty easily doing that. And it does add some controllability because it's got that groove. So maybe this is exactly what it's for, you know? So interesting shape though. So tell me what you would use this for, you know, and now the sharpenability factor might be another issue too. It might be kind of difficult. You might have to use like a rod on it. I bet us like a Spyderco sharp maker would probably be able to get this thing sharpened again. But it's just such an interesting design, very purpose built. You know, I'm not sure entirely myself of what that purpose would be, but nonetheless, I think it's pretty cool to see Condor entering the market and producing such a unique item, very unique. And so let's go ahead and clean up real quick. All right, so I did want to make some size comparisons because again, you can see it's not an overly long knife, but it is have some weight to it. So before we do size comparisons, let's pull out the scale here. Check out the weight of the Pocket Beast, and coming in a little over 7 ounces. Yeah, so it's got some weight to it. Honestly, doesn't feel that heavy though. You know, maybe just because the size is so compact, it doesn't feel like it weighs you down that much. So if 7 ounces sound like a lot for you, it is what it is. Here it is next to a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And then let's get the Spyderco PM3 right next to that as well. So we can kind of see it's closer to the PM3 in overall size than the Paramilitary 2. But definitely much heavier than both of these knives. Let's go ahead and get a Kershaw Blur. Kershaw Blur right next to it as well. So we can see it right next to there. And it's just such an oddball knife. Like, is it really a good comparison to any of these knives? I'm not entirely sure. But just, again, I think it's worth chatting about. A unique brand. Usually they do fixed blades. But having folding knives, this is something pretty cool to check out, in my opinion. So let me know what you think about the Pocket Beast here. Was I too hard on it? Have I been, you know, am I nitpicking here? I totally could be, you know, because what you're doing is getting a perspective from someone who handles a lot of knives. I don't go out woodcrafting, bushcrafting, whatever you want to call it, all the time. But I appreciate a tool that can do that. And with these super thick liners, this thing is built to hold up to a lot of abuse, in my opinion. But I hope you all have a nice day out there, and I'll see you later.